I'm just going to share my screen. So we'll be spending a little bit of time today just to do a refresher on the genuine student requirements for Nepal. Um, as Nepal has gone to level 2, we have been increasingly reducing some of the previous requirements that we had. You will notice that, for example, the raised IELTS requirement for undergraduate students has now been removed, and we are now able to accept undergraduate applicants from Nepal with the usual IELTS requirement of 6 with no band less than 5.5 as an example. Over the coming months, as we get a better understanding of visa grant rates from the department nationally, we will be spending time conducting more reviews on the genuine student requirements for Nepal. Currently, there are no major changes, but I'll go through what the requirements are with you now. I'll try to keep it as short as possible. If anyone does have any questions, please type them into the chat box, and I will do my best to answer all of those at the end of the session. So if I can get through this in 10 or 15 minutes, we'll have a few minutes for questions at the end. So again, really important that you bookmark this page. This is the GSR and admissions guide specifically for Nepal. You'll see in the URL up here. We'll copy and paste that into the chat box in a moment for you. But this will give you direct access to what admissions is looking at when they are assessing an application from Nepal. Firstly, and probably most importantly, is the link to the genuine student statement. So all applicants from Nepal are required to complete the genuine student statement. That statement is currently an online form which you access by clicking on that link. Most of you will be familiar with this form. The form allows you to attach your documents directly into the form. The benefit of doing this compared to a PDF document is that when you are uploading your documents to this form through the document upload buttons here, the documents are attached directly to the student's statement rather than being uploaded as separate documents in StudyLink. The benefit of this is that it helps to streamline the process and ensure that admissions is able to process these genuine student statements quickly. The document is attached against the specific response, and that means admissions can just click on that document in the form and open that to check, really speeding up that process. We're currently working on a process to help in situations where the genuine student statement has been lodged and we require an amendment. Currently, we understand if we request an amendment, the form does not allow you just to respond to one single question and update your response to that question, and means that you have to redo the form. We are working on a process which we'll release shortly that will enable you, if you need to provide a revised response to a certain question, we will be able to allow you to just provide an update on one or two responses rather than having to do the whole form again. Of course, if the whole form is no good, we will need you to do the entire form again. Overall, we're more satisfied with the quality of the genuine student statements that are being submitted, and the majority of these are now being approved, particularly for Nepal. So that is a good sign. Academic requirements, these are all standard. I'm sure you're all aware of these, but we'll just go through very quickly. So for undergraduate students in all of our Metro Campus courses, we require an NEB score of 3 or higher. We are currently looking at that, and we may shortly revise that down to 2.8, but we will let you know once that decision has been finalised. For postgraduate students, we require successful completion of a 4-year bachelor's degree from a recognised university, generally with a minimum of 60% calculated across the degree. This percentage requirement is also something that we are currently looking at, and may have news on that for you in the coming weeks. So keep your eyes out for that. As soon as any changes are made, I'll make sure that Sujina is aware of that, and we will update this tool so you'll be able to see that there. For the hotel school, the undergraduate requirements are the same: successful completion of 12th grade with a minimum score of 3 in the NEB. In postgraduate, we have no minimum percentage requirement, just as long as the student has completed the equivalent of an Australian bachelor's degree, and that would normally be from Nepal a 4-year degree. Financials. Now, this is usually the biggest sticking point and the thing that takes the longest time. We are looking at how we can streamline this, particularly now that Nepal is level 2, but we have to be very careful. We have still been advised by immigration that their main focus at the moment is on financial capacity and genuine access to those funds. So this does mean that we have to be relatively strict when it comes to the assessment of financial documentation. We have limits in place, and those limits have been specifically recommended to us by immigration, such as this one: financials from rental income. We have a limit where we generally allow a maximum of 30% of the total income from the sponsor allowed by rental income. Now, if it goes up a few percent, if it's 32, 33%, we can consider those on a case-by-case basis. But generally, we look at a maximum rental income of 30%. The important thing to note with rental income, and again, this is direct feedback from immigration, they have said that rental income becomes very difficult and unfortunately is quite easy to fake. Therefore, what they request that we ask for is a copy of the rental agreement, which clearly outlines the rental amount, plus evidence of monthly rental payments being paid into a bank account for at least 12 calendar months. Now, we can be flexible on monthly payments. We know sometimes these rental payments may not be made monthly. They might be paid every 2 months, every 3 months. That is fine, as long as we can see that rental payments have been paid into a bank account for at least 12 calendar months, and that the amount that has been paid in aligns with that rental agreement. So if the rental agreement says that the rental amount is $10,000 per year, for example, as long as you show us that that rent has been deposited into an account for at least 12 months, and if it is for 12 months, it shows $10,000 in there, that would be quite acceptable. So no problems with that. We don't accept income from rental vehicles, only from properties. Cash deposits is another big thing that we've been asked to be very careful of. And a visa officer will scrutinise an application where there has been a recent large deposit of money into a bank account. So generally, where there are large deposits of money, we would request evidence of the source of those funds. So, for example, if you have sold a piece of land to finance the student, then we would expect to see evidence of the sale of that land, the amount the land was sold for, and seeing that that amount has now been deposited into a bank account. If the deposit can be explained, we will accept those large lump sums. It is where deposits have been made and cannot be clearly explained that we have problems. We accept evidence of finance either in the form of savings or an education loan or a combination of both, or other income. Generally speaking, we do not accept finances that are 100% proceeds from the sale of a property. We will accept up to 80%, with the remainder being required in the form of savings or other income. All income sources must be backed up with official evidence, such as regular bank deposits, tax assessments, etc. So it is the documentation that is probably even more important than the actual funds in the account. It's easy to show those funds there. We need to be able to see official evidence of where those funds have come from. Is it from salary? Is it from rental? Is it from other sources of income? We need to be able to see that. Generally speaking, also, we do not accept 100% of income coming from a bank loan. There may be exceptions to that where a bank loan has been fully dispersed. We will consider that on a case-by-case basis. But generally, we would expect the student to have at least 20% of their funds in savings, and they can show that. That just makes it a lot clearer to immigration that the student actually has genuine access to funds and it is not just a sudden loan. The important thing with loans is that the applicant is able to demonstrate that they can service that loan and pay back that loan. That is what is important to immigration. Obviously, in terms of what we're looking for in terms of funds, these amounts are set by the Department of Home Affairs. So we need to be able to see that the applicant is able to show their first year of tuition fees plus their first year of living expenses. For most students, that will be approximately 56,000 Australian dollars. As Adam mentioned earlier, we have Access 26 coming in for next year, meaning that all of our courses will be $26,000 per year. So that would be $26,000 plus $29,710 for a single applicant's living expenses. That is approximately $56,000. That is what we would need to see evidence of upfront. Disbursement of loans. If the student has a loan, the best evidence they can provide of genuine access to funds, if they are relying on a loan, is evidence of disbursement. We generally need to see that at least the first year of the loan has been dispersed, and if possible, full disbursement of the loan where the student has requested that. Makes it a lot easier. We do have a debt to income ratio. Currently, we are also looking at this ratio. to see whether we can increase that. Currently, it is at 35 or below. So the debt to income ratio is calculated by the total annual loan repayment divided by the total annual income. So for example, if the annual loan repayments are 10,000 Australian dollars and the total annual income is 25,000 Australian dollars, the DTI would be 40. And you get that by 10,000 divided by 25,000 times 100 will give you a rate of 40. In that case, it would be too high. So we would need to see it at 35 or below. Again, that is to prove to immigration that the sponsor has available funds sufficient to be able to service the loan. If the DTI is significantly higher, it makes it a lot more difficult to convince immigration that the sponsor has sufficient funds. Collateral. So we generally do not accept non-collateral loans. So the loans need to be collateral loans. And if the loan was obtained against collateral, we would consider who the collateral for the loan is. So the collateral for the loan needs to be someone who has a relationship with the applicant. I won't go into great detail on all of this. You have the tool available to you, so I just want to go over the basics so that you're aware. Financial sponsors, in general, we accept parents. If both parents are sponsoring, we will consider them as one sponsor. We also accept spouse, grandparents, and parents-in-law. We are currently considering adding paternal aunts and uncles to this list. It hasn't been finalized yet, but we are looking at that, and I will let you know if that happens. Currently, we allow aunts and uncles in certain circumstances. That is where the student is an orphan or where one parent is deceased, or where the aunt or uncle or sibling is an Australian permanent resident or citizen and meets the minimum Australian income requirement. Down the bottom, you'll see a checklist. These are the sorts of documents that we would expect to see accompanying the genuine student statement to prove financial capacity. Now, obviously, not all of these are required. You would provide the ones that are relevant to the student. So that is financial requirements. The minimum genuine student requirement. We have age limits. An undergraduate student, we will generally accept up to the age of 25. A postgraduate student, we will accept generally up to the age of 40. Any student over the age of 35, we will scrutinize more closely in terms of the relevance of the course, the gap activity, and their ROI, but we will still look at them. Gaps. Now, the biggest change here is we are now not restricting gaps for postgraduate students. You may remember that we used to have a limit of 5 years. We have now extended that, and we're saying that we will look at gaps of up to 20 years where the applicant can provide strong evidence of employment in that and that gap activity. The employment should be related or relevant to their intended course. And as long as they can demonstrate a strong return on investment and financial capacity, we would consider that longer gap. Now, obviously, the longer the gap is, the more evidence we will require, but it does mean that we now have the flexibility to be able to accept those applicants with longer gaps. Married applicants, we do not accept married undergraduate applicants. Postgraduate applicants need to have been married for at least 1 year at the time of application. We do not currently accept married couples with dependent children, but we do accept married couples for postgraduate applicants. So those are the minimum genuine student requirements. Specific genuine student requirements, again, completion of the genuine student statement, meeting the financials as required. An interview is required for all students from Nepal. This serves a number of purposes. Firstly, it does really help prepare a student in case they get called for a visa interview. Immigration have been very clear with us and told us that they know that we are interviewing our students, and they're very happy with that. They've told us that we should be interviewing all students, and that the quality of our students is really good when they are interviewed by immigration. So that is really good. And English requirements all set out here. These are standard English requirements. You will be aware of those, so I won't go through that. But that's just a brief update. So as I've mentioned, there are a couple of things that we are looking at the moment, trying to reduce further some of those genuine student requirements. I'm always more than happy to take any feedback or suggestions that you may have. I can't say that we will always be able to implement them, because we generally do what we do in conjunction with advice from immigration. But where I can make changes and where those changes make sense, I will always promise to have a look at that. So if you do have any suggestions, feel free to contact me directly, or go to Sujina, and she can feed that back through to me as well, and we will have a look at those. So that is really my presentation for today. Thank you again for your time. I hope that's given you some useful information. I'll pass back to Adam, and happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
All right, good one. Thank you, John. You didn't want to spend some more time showing the new bot that we have there to answer questions? Do you want to?
Certainly can do. I thought we were in a rush, so I thought
I don't think we're in a rush. We still got more people joining, so let's show it off while we can.
Okay. All right. So back on that page again. So this, what we've done down the bottom is created a new AI interface to this tool. So you can still access the GSR and admissions guide the traditional way by opening up Nepal and having a look through each of these drop-down menus. That is fine. There's no change there. This tool, though, is an AI integration of this genuine student guide. What it allows you to do, rather than having to open up everything there, you can type your question in here, such as, is rental income, I have to spell properly, is rental income allowed for Nepal? As an example, click enter, and the AI will trawl the information that we have in there, and you will see here, rental income is an acceptable source of funds for applicants from Nepal. It will go over what the requirements are and what we allow, what we don't allow, that sort of thing, and give you further information in some cases. You could type in what are the academic requirements for Nepal, and again, it will bring up those academic requirements as listed in the tool. So again, there you have undergraduate entry requirements, completion of 12th grade with an NEB score of 3 in that examination, postgraduate, and it will give you all of the options. So you can pretty much ask it any question you want, as long as that information is contained in the genuine student guide. you will find that there, and it will help you find that information a lot more quickly. So we hope that that is a useful tool for you. If there is any other information you'd like me to add to that you think would add value to it, again, please feed that information back through either to myself directly or through Sujina, and we'll be happy to look at what we can do to accommodate that.
All right, thanks, John. That's great. So I think that we do have a few questions here coming through in the Q&A. If anyone would like to ask anything specific, please type it in there, or of course you can go directly to the webpage that's got the John bot in there. John, there's a couple of questions there. The first one is from what age to what age of children can we apply? I think that means the minimum age a student can apply. It wouldn't be related to the age of their children, right? It's more, I think, the applicant. How old do they need to be?
I think so. So just in case you didn't hear, I did say earlier that we do not accept dependent children. So we don't accept applicants with dependent children. But if you're talking about the age of the applicant, the minimum age is 18. So we don't accept students under the age of 18. They can be under 18 when they lodge their application, but we will not issue a COE until they turn 18.
Okay. Thank you, John. There's another one there. I'll just skip a slightly longer one. Are there any changes in sponsor count? I'm not exactly sure what that one refers to.
Yeah, if you're asking about the number of sponsors, no. We allow generally 2 sponsors, but if both parents are sponsoring, we will count the parents as 1. So you could have 2 parents plus 1 grandparent, for example, which would allow you 3 sponsors. Again, this is in response to advice from immigration that made it pretty clear that the more sponsors you have, the less likely it is that you're able to demonstrate that you have genuine access to funds. So we try to limit it. We will look on a case-by-case basis. For example, if a student's father has passed away and the mother is not working, and they've got a sibling and an uncle who wants to help, we will look at those on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, good one. Do we have a list of banks that are not accepted by the university?
So we don't have a list of banks that are not accepted, but we do have a list of banks that are accepted. I will just get that page for you and put a link in the chat box. Just give me one moment. So if you go to that link, you'll see pre-arrival financial institutions. That will give you a list of banks in Nepal that we do accept. If they are not on that list, by implication, it means we don't accept them.
All right, good one. And that's in the webinar chat, everyone, in case you need to find that. We also have the link to the online GTE guide, the GAG, in there as well, so you can look that one up. All righty, there's a question there. Is money transferred from a Provident Fund account, can it be considered as a 20% saving of loan amount from a Provident Fund?
Yes, so the immigration procedure manual does have specific information about Provident accounts. Now, monies that are kept in a Provident account with an entity managing that provident fund do not qualify as money deposits with a financial institution because the entity doesn't satisfy the definition of financial institution. However, if those provident funds are transferred from the provident fund into a recognised bank, then yes, that would be acceptable as meeting the 20% requirement.
Okay. Thank you. And then a question there about the duration of a bank statement required to support income.
So if you are talking about personal income, so the sponsor's personal income, we generally require 6 months of bank statements. We used to allow 3 months, but we started to see an increase in the number of visa refusals. And when I spoke to immigration about that, they said that they weren't really, 3 months is really too short to show that there is a genuine savings happening. 3 months you can deposit money from somewhere. It doesn't really show that there is ongoing genuine access to those funds. So the longer you can provide that, the better it is. That is why we set it at 6 months. Now, again, we will be somewhat flexible with that. If the student can only show us 5 months, we would take that into consideration along with their general profile, and would probably approve that if everything else was okay. But in general, 6 months for personal income. If it's business income, we need to see evidence that the business has been operating for at least 12 months and that there is 12 months of business activity going on in a bank account. The same, as I mentioned earlier, with rental income, we need evidence of 12 months of rental income.
All right, good one. Thanks, John. This one, next question, exactly who can stay for collateral?
Who can stay? So who can put up the collateral for a loan? I'm guessing that's what you mean. Ideally, the collateral will be provided by the person who is taking out the loan. So let's say the loan is in the student's father's name. Ideally, the collateral would be in his name. However, we know culturally speaking, particularly in Nepal, very often the collateral might be in the name of the grandfather. That is fine, as long as you can show a relationship, a close relationship, not the old lady who lives down the road, but if it is the grandparents or some other close family member, we would accept those as the person providing collateral.
All right, good one. This is a good question. Could you explain how to calculate return on investment, or I guess demonstrate return on investment?
Yes, that is a very good question. And I can tell you, if you get this right, this increases your chance of visa grant tenfold, because it is something that immigration looks at closely. To demonstrate this, I'm going to share my screen again, if you don't mind, and I'll put a formula up there. That just makes it a little bit easier to explain. So what we're looking at when we are calculating the return on investment are two things. Firstly, it is the investment itself. Now, the investment is the total tuition fees for the duration of the course, plus the total living expenses for the duration of the course. So that is the first part of the equation. That is actually your investment. So if we take a real life example, let's say the student is coming to do a Master of Information Technology starting in Term 1, 2026. So we know already that the annual fee is $26,000. So for the duration of that course, a 2-year course, we are looking at 52,000 Australian dollars as the education investment, plus your living expenses. Those living expenses are determined by the Department of Home Affairs, and they are currently approximately $30,000 Australian per year. So that means an additional 60,000 Australian dollars. That is your total investment. So that equals 112,000 Australian dollars. All right, that is the first part of the calculation. This is designed to show that the student has a clear understanding of what the cost of their education is going to be to them. Then we need to look at the return on that investment. The return on the investment is calculated by looking at the expected net salary. Now, what do I mean by net salary? That is the salary minus tax and living expenses. So let's say the student is going to return to Nepal after they complete their degree, and they can expect a salary of, let's say, 30,000 Australian dollars per year. That's just an example. Out of that, we need to deduct tax and living expenses. Now, again, I don't know exactly what that is in Nepal, but I'm going to say approximately $10,000 per year for tax and living expenses. That leaves you a net salary of $20,000. All right. So now what you do is you take your investment of $112,000 divided by your net salary of $20,000, and this equals approximately 5.5 years. That will give you your return on investment in years. So if we calculate that, 112,000 divided by 20,000 equals 5.6. So this number here is the number of years, and that is your return on investment. That is how long it is going to take you to earn back what you have spent. Now, obviously, if the student is planning to stay in Australia, their expected salary might be a lot higher, but the expenses are also going to be a lot higher. Tax in Australia, we'd all be very happy if it was only $10,000 a year. So you need to calculate it based on where the student is intending to live and work after they graduate. Hopefully that explains to you. Now, normally what would be required if you're answering this question in the genuine student statement, this will give you a great score. If you can show us that you're calculating this way, it shows us that the student really understands what their expenses are and what their return on that investment is going to be. But we also want to see evidence. Now, the evidence we would expect to see would be this. The expected salary. So if the student says, I'm going to return to Nepal, I'm going to work as a software developer and will be earning $30,000 per year, we would want to see evidence that a software developer in Nepal would earn $30,000 per year. We would also want to see evidence of this to show that, so what is the expected tax they could be expected to pay on that salary, and what are the average annual living expenses for a single person or a married person living in Nepal. So hopefully that answers your question for you.
All right, that was a good one. Thanks, John. And everyone, we will be circulating a recording of this webinar. So in case you didn't get a chance to catch that, we will be sending around that pretty soon. All right. I think we may have time for one more question, but there's a whole lot of questions here in there at the moment. Almost all of them can be answered by going to the online GAG document that John shared previously, and we've shared the link in there. So I encourage you to go there and check that one. Maybe just one more question, John, and this I think will impact a number of agents there. Someone, Oshin Oli, is asking about onshore financial requirements who may have completed an undergrad or a diploma in Australia. Now, how are they treated differently to offshore requirements, and how can they look that info up in the GAG?
Okay, so let me just reshare that again. I'll have to open it up again. I think I've closed it. Okay. So when it comes to onshore student, when you're going into that tool, so again, from this page, if you were looking at an offshore student from Nepal, you would type in Nepal, hit enter, and it'll give you all that information. If the student is onshore, regardless of what country they come from, you type in onshore, hit enter, and you will see onshore over here on the left-hand side. And this will give you all of the information specifically for onshore students. Now, if you click on this, you will see that financials for onshore students are generally not required. There are some situations in which we would ask for financials. Those would be cases where, for example, the student is or has been a dependent on their spouse's student visa, which is now expiring, and they want to apply for their own student visa. We would ask for financials in that case. And the financials that we request for onshore students are very simple. We don't require evidence of sponsor income. We don't have DTI requirements. We don't have loan requirements, anything like that. All we will ask for is evidence that the applicant has access to sufficient funds to cover their first year of tuition and living expenses. Generally, all that means is show us a bank statement that clearly shows that that amount of money is available to them in that bank account. Now, that bank statement could be from their parents. It could be their own bank statement. And that is generally all we would ask for. But most onshore students will not be required to show evidence of finances.
All right. Very good. Thank you, John. Now, I think we better wrap it up there. We've gone over by more than 20 minutes, but we will be circulating a copy of this. Just before we wrap up, I'll just check if Sujina, who's on the call, wanted to mention anything else while we've got her there. Hey, Sujina, are you online there?
Yes, I'm here, sir. So nothing much. I think all the queries that's been answered, all whatever feedback I am getting from the agents, they've been answered. And yes, as Sir John said, if you have any questions or any feedback, please feel free to write it back to Sir Jesse, or you can send it to me as well. And yes, of course, Adam, the big national festival is on the way. So why don't you wish Happy Dasai to all the Nepalese? So we're going on a 1 week break.
Yes, excellent. Everyone deserves a holiday after the last couple of weeks. Happy Desai, is that the way to pronounce it?
Yes,
Sujina?
Happy Dasai.
Happy Desai. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for joining. Please submit your applications. John and his team will get back to you very quickly. And remember, our new courses in business and IT are perfect for the Nepalese market. So we look forward to seeing a lot of your students down here. So thank you, John. Thank you, Chami. Thank you, Sujina. Happy Desai. We'll talk to you all soon.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.